Okay folks, welcome back. This is your old pal Hondo doing another video for you. I hope it's going to be exciting, but today we are going to be reviewing on a product. Today is the Zebco 33 2020. This is the new model right here. As you can see, it has a different design than last year's model, which I have as well. The rod's good too. We're going to pan the camera down and show you what the features on this reel.
Here we go.
This
is the reel in itself. Right here we have the reel and the rod combo. The rod is a 6-foot Z-glass rod, medium action. It has steel eye guides all the way through. The tip on this rod is in between firm and flexible. It's a good middle of the road type of rod for catching panfish as well, so you don't overset the hook when you're catching crappie and stuff like that. This is a multi-species reel. That's what you use this for. It's for every species, all the way up to a catfish. Probably a channel cat would be pushing it with this rod. Anything bigger than a channel cat is not recommended for this. It's not a saltwater reel neither. As you can see, there's the reel. It has a different design than last year's reel. This is the design that replaced this design of reel. This reel here is 3/8 to 1 gear ratio, 1 ball bearing, bait alert, and double handle crank, steel covers. This one here is an improvement over this one. It has 1 more gear ratio over this one than over this one here. This one is 4-1-1 gear ratio. Has the bait alert right here. This is the same as this one. Double handle crank as well, 1 ball bearing. They both have 1 ball bearing, but the only difference between them is the design of the body on the top of the cover here is way different than this one. This one has holes in it for, I guess, the water could leak out if you dropped it in the water, and it does have a small hole right here on the bottom of this cover here, but it does take apart, very similar to this one, where you have to put a screwdriver in the back plate to get to the rear of the gears. It's got an Evo handle as well, and it's got little hook keeps in the back of the reel, just like the other one. Like I said, it is really smooth. It's a lot faster than the old reel. Evo handle feels really nice with this reel. I have had 0 issue out of this one with line backlash on the inside of the spinner cone. I'll show you what the spinner cone looks like on this reel. And that's another gripe I got, is this cover comes off a lot harder. It's a lot harder to get this cover off than this one here. This one here is a lot easier to maintenance as well. The spinner cone on this one is very similar to this one, but they didn't chrome these, so I could see that becoming a problem with rust. I already had some rust on it earlier where I was taking it apart, and I took some steel wool to get rid of the rust, so that it's lacking a good chrome finish on these reels. It looks like that's how China is doing the reels now, and that's how they're cutting corners on cost. They shouldn't cut that cost in chroming the spools, the spinners. That's one thing I don't like about this reel, but it is fast, and only time will tell how long this reel will last over that splash that I had, because usually the line will wear these spinners out right about here on the around the pickup pin. It's got 2 pickup pins as well, and the 2 pickup pins on it are I think they're ceramic, and they're coated with Teflon. They're okay, I guess, but I'll tell you, this reel is fast. It's 10 times faster than the older reel. The drag on it is really good too. It locks into place. The drag is it's not loose like the one on the 202 I had and the 404 that I got, that are the newer generations of 202s and 404s. It locks into place and it's not going to move around, and the drag is really smooth on this one, just like it is on this one. But if you want to take the back plate off to get to the gears, that's easy. You just want to put this cover back on, put it on, there's a little notch there. You just kind of got to jam it on there and twist it on. The rod is done really well as well. I like this rod when the handle is comfortable. I mean, I could use this reel all day long. with no issue whatsoever. I could cast it all day long. It casts extremely well. It casts just as good as the old one does. But one thing I don't understand why they put a smaller hole in the front when it's better to put a wider hole like this one here, and a lot of the Daiwas have a wider hole so the line can spool out and then reel in a lot easier. Like I said, these little hybrid spinning reels, not closed-faced, are great, but the only downside about them is when you reel the line in, it traps all the junk inside the spinner, and you're going to have to like clean that spinner head out all the time, like once a year, and then put some grease in them back gears and store it, or put some oil on them back gears and store it before you go for the season if you're not using it again. Now, to get this back plate off, it's tricky. You're going to have to take a tool like a flathead screwdriver, or a small punch is what I like to use to take the back plate off to service this reel. It's a pain in the butt, but it comes right off like that, and sometimes it likes to come off, sometimes it don't. It's really a big pain in the butt to do this, but the back plate comes off, and that'll just fall off, but that goes back in like that, you know what I'm saying, to take it off like that. But if you want to take these gears out, all you got to do is pull this pin here. Once you pull that pin, there's a small little anti-reverse in the back that stops the right here, that goes in that way, and you know, you can pull this center gear out, push those bushings out, pull the pinion gear out, and then clean it. Now when you want to pull this center gear out, you got to push this little bait alert plastic piece inwards to pull it out, because if you try to pull this thing out without pushing this in, it won't come out. So just remember, you have to push this little bait clicker piece of plastic in before you pull it out. And there's like a little plastic piece, I don't know if you can see it, which is the anti-reverse switch. It's a little piece of plastic right there. It has to be put in this way, you know, like the fat end on the first, like there's a little round end right here on the other side, there's a little pointy end that pokes out right there. So that little pointy end's got to poke out this way, and that little fat end's got to lay underneath the anti-reverse mechanism right here that locks that gear into place when you're using it. So you got a continuous anti-reverse. As you can see, you can hear it clicking. But after you push those bushings out, pull that out, you can take the top spinner off. You pull the pin off the spinner. I'll show you how to do that real quick. And like I said, pull this off, and you take the spinner here, you got to push the stupid button in. I forgot about that. You hold the handle down like that, take the spinner off, and oh my goodness, okay, you hold the handle down, twist it counterclockwise. You don't want to twist it the other way, because if you twist it the other way, you could break and strip the screw out on there, and then you're gonna have to take the back spring off of this right here to pull that whole spool off, and you don't want that, you know. But you want to take this apart right here. You take this little pin out right here, pull those washers off, pull the spool off, and there's a little drag underneath it that you have to pull a little screw out right here that holds this little drag knob in, and pull all that out and clean this out every 4 or 5 years. You don't need to do it right now, but basic maintenance is basically for storing it. And if you're using it in fresh water, you take that spinner head off like that, spray it out with WD-40, wipe it out if it's got dirt all over the spinner, you know, wash this off with water, let it sit upside down outside for about an hour or two till it drains, and then take the back plate off, and then take some oil and just oil these points right here underneath the bushings, around this part right here, and put a couple drops straight down in the ball bearing, so it flood that ball bearing up in there in the center pinion gear. That way when you store it, it doesn't seize up on you, and the next year you go to using it, it won't have no issues with the line, with the gears seizing up on you. That's just once a year maintenance. But when you're using this thing every time you go fishing, it's going to collect a lot of dirt. So just make sure you clean out the cover, spray this spinner head off. You don't need to take the back cover off for that. That's just like once a year type of thing. You take the back cover off. You take the back cover off and put that oil on the back. Now you don't have to tear this reel down, but every 5 years, take the gears out and scrub them with WD-40 and re-grease them. You don't have to do that, but every 3 or 4 years in the fresh water. Now if you're using this thing in salt water, every year. Now we're going to reassemble it. There's another trick too. If the line gets stuck underneath the spool, underneath here, all you got to do is just twist that head off like I showed you, and the line will be tangled on the inside. So just untangle the line, and if you have an issue that keeps doing that, take about 15 or 20 yards of line off, because sometimes they overspool these reels from the factory. So keep that in mind when you're using one of these reels. Like I said, sometimes the line will get stuck underneath the frame too. That could be an issue, so you may have to take this pin off to get that line unstuck underneath the frame. That only happens if you ain't got this line hanging out when you're not using it and you're storing it up and you want to reel it. It gets stuck underneath there sometimes. On a rare occasion, it will get stuck underneath the spool. That could be an issue too, so you got to take that spool off to untangle it underneath the reel too. So just a tip. Now put the spinner head back on. It's easy. You just the opposite way of counterclockwise and hold the handle down, tighten it up like so, and that's tight enough. And I love the anti-backlash line brake right here. This actually, when you push the button, it pushes the line up against the frame of the reel where it holds the line in place. So when you let off the trigger and let off, it drops that. Once you do, it lets the line go. It basically breaks the line for casting. So it's got a really good brake on it. I've had zero issue with this backlash and underneath the spool yet. So we're gonna put this back together and show you how to do it again. Put the frame back on this baby. We're gonna have to push the pins in like so and put the cover back on. This is a little bit tricky. Sometimes I have an issue with putting this back on here. You have to put this you have to put the button in here like so, and you put the frame of this back into this frame back on it like so. We're gonna have to move the rod out of the way to do this. And you need to lay the reel on something to push this back into place. And sometimes it goes on and sometimes they don't want to go on, but until you hear it pop and it goes right back on. So there you go. That's how you take the back plate off for maintaining it. Sometimes you don't got to tear this reel apart, but if you've used it for 5 years and it's getting crunchy, it's not performing as good as it once did when you got it new, that's when you're going to have to tear this reel apart. But up to this point, all you got to do yearly maintenance is put a little bit of oil on that back end before you store it, if you're using it in the fresh water, and clean out that spinner head and re-grease that spinner head. That's really all the maintenance you need to do, is re-grease the underneath the spool and the spinner head, take it apart, clean it. You rarely got to pull these back gears. Every 3 or 4 years, 5 years. I've actually used the Zebco 33 for 5 years without re-greasing the gears in fresh water. Now salt water is highly corrosive, so you're going to need to do it every year. But if you're going to store this, just put a little bit of oil on them gears and flood that ball bearing, and clean out that spinner head before you store it, and clean the cover out. And that's basically all the maintenance you need to do. Now I do recommend this reel, but like I said, I can't tell you long-term use, but just using it over a month, it's been an outstanding reel. It's very fast, it's very responsive. I think it's a really good all metal gear, quick set, anti-reverse, one ball bearing Zebco. I think I'm knocking this one out of the park. But there's a few issues with it that kind of I don't like the small hole The spinner head was not chromed properly. It's like that's how they cut corners on costing. The graphite frame's okay. A lot of these newer reels, and even up into the 80s, were making reels with graphite frames. So, you know, it's okay. The handle, I love the handle. The handle is great. I give high marks on the handle. The rubberized knobs on there are really good. They're very positive. They're not like these ones here where they're all flat and taste, they don't feel as good. These ones are actually better than the later generation of reels though, but it's not as bad. But this one here has oversized knobs, textured. They're really good. They did the handle on this one really well. I give it a high mark. I give it a 4. It's not bad. I think it's better than this year's model. So, yeah.
That's the end of the video on the Zebco 33 2020 reel. I like it, but it's more of I like this for more of a dedicated bait fishing rod on a bank. Is it any good? It's pretty good. I mean, it's a good buy. But if you're gonna buy it, go to a Zebco parts dealer and buy an extra spinner for these things, just in case you break it, either from your own negligence or improper. I mean, the line messing up on the spool will leave a nice little slit in the spinner around the pickup pin. So with any of these new reels, I recommend you to buy an extra spinner cone with it, just in case. But it's a great reel. I mean, I like it for top water and Texas rigs, but anything bigger than that, like bigger spinner baits, faster baits that you have to move really, really fast in the water, it doesn't work good for that. Maybe small inline spinners and Texas rigs are okay. Top water baits like buzz baits, it works great for that. And it worked good for jigs, for crappie. I caught a couple crappie and some catfish with it. Works great. Recommend it. Go ahead and get one. If you're in the market to buy a new Zebco, or you just want to buy it for collecting standpoint, then go ahead and get it. It's a great reel and a great buy. The Helix gear system on that reel is great though. The Helix gear system is excellent this year and this year's model over the other one. Okay folks, if you like this video, please hit the like, share, and subscribe on this video, and tell me what you think in the comment section about this new product. I recommend it if you're wanting a budget rod. It's a lot cheaper and probably better than those ready to fish combos at Walmart. Go ahead and get it. Get yourself some inline spinners, some worm hooks, and some yum dingers, and you know, some Texas rig worm hooks, and some bullet weights, and some split shots and bobbers, and go take yourself fishing and catch some fish. Well folks, this has been your old pal Hondo on a review on the new Zebco 33 Authentic 2020 reel. It's great. I like it. It's fast. It's a great bank fishing rod. Good little jigging fishing rod for whatever multi-species you're going after. This has been your old pal Hondo from Hillbilly Tactical. Go ahead and get it. It's a decent buy, and y'all know what you can do. You put God first, He puts you first every time. And you know what else, YouTube? God loves you. So does Hondo. Peace out, YouTube.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me.